Alright, today is a very special day. I want to test all of the systems in the bus. So I'm going to be testing the water and the gas stuff. Gas stuff's already been tested, so I'm sure it's fine, but I want to turn on my hot water and see how well that works. And the reason I'm doing this is because before I go any further, I need to, with building out the shower or closing any pipes in the wall, I need to make sure that they don't leak. So kind of at a point where if I don't do that, I'm going to be sitting on my hands for a while. So it's a nice sunny day, probably the last chance I'll have for a while. So I'm going to fill up my tanks a bit, and then I'm going to attach my little 20-pound propane tank to my gas system because there's no gas in this, and we'll see how it goes. Okay, so I've got my gas hooked up to my little tee-off there, and I have the valve closed so it doesn't fill that way. It's not on yet because now I got to hook up the water. Okay, so I've got standard garden hose coming around the bus until we get to here. And this is from here to here is a pressure regulator. Brings the pressure down to about 55 psi. It's a little flexible joiner. Then we have a water filter, and then into my water hose, freshwater hose, that then connects to my freshwater fill. So now we're ready to go. Okay, so before I turn on the water, I want to go over this really quick. We've got fresh water coming in this way, heading down this way, and then there's a valve. This valve fills the tank. So if I want to fill the tank, I got to have it in the on position. But right now, I'm going to go ahead and make sure that everything is off. So I've got that off. I've got another valve right here that connects to the rest of the freshwater lines in the bus. That's off with a little check valve there. And then we've got all the lines in here. So the fresh water going into hot water tank is also off. So we're going to systematically go through here and turn everything on one by one. So I think we're ready now to turn on the water and the gas, and we'll see what happens. Okay, so the water is on, and I checked it. No leaks here at the filter. And we have no leaks here. So that's a good start. No leaks yet. Everything is dry so far. Okay, turn on the gas. Okay, so we got the gas running. So I'm just gonna go ahead and shut this off. Alright, let's go one step at a time. First off, this is going to be a very exciting moment. This will be the first time water gets turned on here out of the faucet. This will be the first time I get water. So I'm kind of nervous. So I'm gonna pull the drain. We come down here. I'm going to keep this off for now, but I'm going to turn the valve to turn on the water. And that is the sound of water pressurizing in my plumbing system. A scary sound. And I think we have pressure. Nothing looks like it's leaking yet. Let's go check in here. Nope, I don't see any leaks yet. So it's time to give this faucet a shot. Turn it all the way to cold. Nothing. Hopefully that just means that this is not on. So let's turn this valve. Heard something move. Look at that. Shut it off the valve. We got cold water. It's a good start. So now this same faucet is on, and I've got the other hose. That's it. Fresh water coming in. So now it's time to check leaks in the drain. So I went outside and took a look around, and I didn't see any leaks. I'm looking now under the sink, and so far I don't see any leaks. The best way to test this is going to be, if we go outside, we'll see if the gray water tank empties when we open it up. A moment of truth. Let's see if stuff is getting into the gray water tank. There's my sink water. Pretty cool. So far so good. We've got cold water. It's draining properly from the sink. So now let's move on to the next interior fixture, which is... Actually, let's start here. This is my little corner sink in the bathroom. So let's turn on the cold water. Felt some pressure there. Now remember, in order for water to get here, it comes in right there by the shower. It comes up here, tees off of this cold water line, and then it goes up over the top through this conduit down this way to where it kind of tees off under the sink. So let's see. Probably gonna get splashed. Well, let's open the drain first. Oh, that's a lovely color. All right. We have cold water draining into my sink. The sink is not leaking. I can hear it draining. Down it goes. Seems to be working pretty good so far. So let's shut this off. I'll leave that valve the way it is. And now it's time to test the shower. Shower water comes in same way, tees off over here, continues on to the sink, but shower pressure goes through this mixer up, comes out here. So let's turn on the mixer. As long as this doesn't leak, I can build in my wall. So I'm gonna hold up the bucket and I'm gonna give this a twist. Nothing. Interesting. Alright, so I'm not sure exactly what's going on, but I'm not getting any pressure out of the water, out of the shower. But the water is coming through this pipe. It got all the way to the other one, so it's got to be something from here to here. I'm guessing it's got to do with the mixer valve. I'm wondering if it needs hot water to function. So let's move on to hot water. Okay, so to turn on hot water, what I got to do is turn this valve, which is going to turn the cold water that's running through these pipes and allow it to get into the hot water heater and into this. I'm going to turn on my hot water heater. I just heard it trigger. And so now, let's give it a roll. So look at that. So we got hot water coming out of this thing. I mean, it's not hot yet, but it turned on. I'll have to come back to that part. Okay, so we're working the other direction now. Pretty confident that nothing's leaking, so let's go over here to the hot water and give it a twist. More black. And oh my gosh, on-demand hot water. Ooh, it's really hot. Let's turn it down. Let's mix this a little. Nice and warm. So my hot water heater is functioning, because this is just hose water. It comes in cold and it's coming out hot. You can see the steam. Ooh, it's really hot. So that's pretty good. So I assume we've got the same thing going on in here. Let's turn on the hot water. That is hot water. Look at that. That's amazing. Incredible. It works. Oh, we almost forgot the water filter. This will take a second. This is the valve for it in the back here. Don't remember which way it's supposed to go. So what's got to happen now is the water is going to go through here. We have water that tees off the red line, comes in here. It's going to pressurize in the filters. And when there's enough pressure, we should get some clean hot water, or clean cold filtered water coming out of the water filter. I think that was the second chamber pressurizing. So let's keep going. And there it is. Let's see if we can open this valve a little more. That's it. Filtered water. Okay, so we've got the water running. We know that the pipes are working, except what's going on with the shower. We'll have to figure that out. So now it's time to move on to the other part that I think is really cool here. If I'm hooked up to city water, I want to be able to fill my tanks. So this valve right here allows me to fill my fresh water tank. So I'm going to hit it. The pressure in the line is going to kind of start filling the tank. So with that working, let's go outside and see if we can see it filling up. So I can't see it, but I can feel it. Water is filling up inside of the tank. So this is working. You can kind of hear, this is the air vent. Displaced air from inside the tank gets pushed through that as it fills up with water. Okay, so nothing's leaking and it's looking pretty good. I've got my tank monitors over here. So if I hit my fresh tank, it is 8% full. This is not calibrated yet, my tank monitor. So the fact that it's reading anything is, if you look at the, well, gray is 3% from all the testing and stuff we've been doing. Black is non-existent, so it's open. Gas, also 0. So what I'm going to do, we'll fill this up to like, let's see if we can at least get another couple percent. And then it's time to mess with the water pump. Okay, so I went outside and checked. Water is definitely going in there. Freshwater tank's at 28%. That's good enough. So I'm going to shut this off. And we're actually going to go disconnect the fresh water. We're all closed up. So now we're going to see what the pump situation is. So right now the pump is off, but there is some pressure in there, so I expect that when I turn this, I might get a little something. But eventually start losing pressure. I don't want it to go all the way down. So over here, we switch on the pump. You hear the pump putting some pressure into the lines through the accumulator tank. Alright, it took it a second to get there, but now it is definitely pulling water from the tank. Shut this off. And off it goes. So the accumulator tank, the reason that this thing is, well, it's a pretty steady stream, but the reason it sounds like a machine gun right now is because the accumulator tank I don't think is dialed in. So I got to get an air pump and do that. But the point is, we are off the grid right now and we have water pressure. That's amazing. So now we're going to see with the water pump if we've got hot water. Oh, it's getting warm. It's working. On-demand hot water. Okay, so the last thing that I want to try out is the exterior shower. So let's hit the valves for the water for the outside shower. Alright, so whoops. Got the exterior shower open. Obviously it's working. Let's turn on the cold water. Don't get very much. Turn on the hot water. It's warm, but That's like no pressure. What's going on here? Well, inside the shower handle there was like a messed up rubber gasket, so I just had to flatten it out and tighten it on there. And now I've got hot water outside. Woo! Be a nice shower. There is something going on with this mixer, and I'm gonna have to mess with it and try to figure out what's going on. But other than that, I'm pretty happy with how everything has been, how this all worked out. So I'm going to shut off the water for now, mess with this for a little while, see if I can sort out what's going on while we're not getting cold water through here. And then once I get that sorted, I am going to essentially go back and winterize the bus. Mess with the shower, pulled this cover off of here to kind of see what was going on. It's a very simple mechanism, so it really, I just kind of like looked in there, made sure everything was moving okay, and it is. Put it back together, and now it's working just fine. I don't know if it's something that I did or if it's just something I was missing, but yeah, so the shower is working fine. So now what I got to do, I got to bleach all these parts that got wet, for one, and then I am going to winterize the bus, get all the water back out so we don't get any frozen pipes or anything. Step one is going to be to drain the fresh tank, and the way that I'm going to do that is by letting all the water run through the system, so that I can basically just get it all into the gray water side and then dump it. I'm going to start over here. This guy's going on so that we can run all the water out that's on this end of the system. So let's see what we got going on here. We're using 7 amps right now, just about, to run the hot water tank and the pump. And we've got, let's see, 10% in the freshwater tank. Okay, so we've pretty much emptied the tank. It's struggling now to pull water. So just leaving that valve open, making sure this valve is on. Get that fresh water out of the lines. Okay, tank feels pretty much empty. Don't see any water in there, so I think that's going to be good to go. At some point I might climb under there. There's a drain plug, but it's up underneath the bus. I don't really want to get to it right now. I don't think it's essential to deal with, so I'm just going to let it be for now. On the other end of things, the gray water tank should be pretty full, and it does feel like there's something in there. So let's open it up. And I'm expecting probably about 20 gallons of water, so I'll step back after I open this. Pretty good. All right, while the water is draining out of the system, might as well light up the stove so we can burn off the propane that's in the left in the lines. So we turn on the stove, close off the gas, and watch the flame. Right now, this is the only thing that should be using propane, so it should burn out on its own. Away it goes. Alright, so shut this off and disconnect the gas. All right, so all of the water's off. Water's been emptied out of the lines. So now I have not taken the water out of these P-traps, and I don't really feel like doing it. But this one definitely needs it to be done. Luckily, this one has a little valve on the bottom that lets you empty it out. So I'm going to go do that. And then I think that's it.